good morning, good people. It's your boy, Leroy McKenzie. I'm sorry, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. coming to you, and it's another episode of the Authors Showcase brought to you by the National Black Unity News newspaper. Y'all see that there? National Black Unity News newspaper, where we bring you some of the country's, nation's writers, authors, influencers, impact builders, those that have a literary impact in what we say and what we do. Some great messages, some great movements, all that have been created by these writers and authors that we bring to you in the Author Showcase with the National Black Unity News. And today is no different than any other. I know we're a little earlier than what we usually do, but y'all know how we do. We do things different around here. We want to keep you on your toes, so we will move around. We will go and be where it is that we need to be when we want to be, because it's ours. Simply because we own it, and when you own it, you control it. You can do as you do, and we're gonna get into that a little bit today too. But when you have control, you can actually change things up. You can actually do the things that you want to do, how you want to do them, when you want to do them, according to your vision. And with these authors, and I'm sitting here trying to roll through my head now. I believe most of the authors that we've had in the Author Showcase are authorpreneurs, and that means they get to control where they want to be, and they don't have to worry about a mainstream publishing company tell them what their story is, but then also they don't tell them where they can be, where they can't be, as far as the platforms that they can use, and all of those great things to get their message out, their vision out, and everything like that. So today, I am welcoming, as you all can see, and we're going to have a great conversation today. I know it, with two individuals that have a calming spirit, but an educational spirit too. So y'all gonna learn something today. So grab your pen and paper, and you're gonna learn a little bit about some history that is not told to us. It's not in the books. You're not gonna find it in the books a lot, because it's stories that don't get told too often. They may get told in certain arenas, but they're not told enough, and that's why they're here with me today, hopefully, to be able to tell us a little bit about those stories, and then why you should be able to get their book. So I want to welcome with me today. Ooh, I'm dropping everything today. I want everyone to welcome. Now, I'm gonna say this, Brother Tavis Saunders and Miss Renee Saunders, aka, and I adopted this to you, Miss Saunders. I called you the Indigenous Educator. I know it says education, but Indigenous Educator, because you're gonna school us a little bit today. So class is in session, y'all. So get ready. So welcome to the show, to the Author Showcase. Tavis and Ms. Saunders. How are you all doing today?
Yes.
Uh-oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, welcome to the show. I want you to all, if you all could, let's start off by just having you all introduce yourself. Tell the audience just a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into our conversation about about the book, and then how you all got started writing and everything.
Okay, that is cool. I'll take that one. So My name is Tavis Sanders. I'm with my mother and Renee Sanders. We're co-founders of a small nonprofit called Indigenous Education. And we organized the nonprofit simply to educate the public of the omitted history of the brown and dark-skinned indigenous peoples of America. And through that, we develop many streams of programs, whether it be online media platforms or television and broadcast series. And then we have educational lessons that we do online, but particularly today, we have our books that we publish that also share the history of pre-colonial America.
Wow. Now, um, let's say what got you all started in writing? What made you all say, "Hey, I have this thought of putting this knowledge and this information together,
He
this
froze
history
up.
together,
Are
and
you
made you all want to put it in a book?" I think we
you
missed you.
froze up?
Yeah, I think so. Is there a delay?
Well, you have frozen for a moment.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You want me to say it again? What was it that got you
Yes,
all?
please.
What was it that got you all started writing and made you want to take the information and knowledge that you all had and want to put it in a book?
Well, really, basically, we are greetings. Yes, I I um I taught public school system in Atlanta,
Okay.
and so education is that's I'm an educator, and so getting this information out to me was just very, very, very important, and just the writing this because I know that we can't catch everybody to watch what we do have, and so it was just another avenue to allow people to get this information that we think is very, very
Yeah,
important.
and for me, it was a way for me to showcase my mama too, right? She got all this information. And it's just, she the nonprofit and then also have a valuable source for individuals to be able to research, this little known aspect of American history and, start to offer our community a better footing and, to be honest with you, to start to step up and, start to care for ourselves and care for our environment a little bit better.
Yeah, we felt that that with people knowing this information, just knowing that there have been Black and brown people on this continent since people have existed on this continent. And so just knowing this history and knowing that we have been here for tens of thousands of years and that there is a rich history that is being hidden from us. And so again, just using any means that we can to get this information out. Again, I'm an educator. I'm not really a writer. However, I had to write things when I was in the classroom. And so again, and again, I do believe that even in the booklets that we do have, I wrote them, from my educational background, so again, I think it's just an easy reading for people to really comprehend the information very easily, and then they can take up from there and then do their own research. We're really hoping that this is just a foundation that where people can really begin to get that concept about the history of Black people here in America.
You with us
Yeah,
still?
yeah, because it kind of froze up a little bit. And I think it might
Yeah.
be the Wi-Fi. It's the ever since that weather has been crazy, the Wi-Fi has been crazy. So there might be a slight delay. Now, tell me this: as educators and as a this being now, was this you all's first book, or do you have books that you all have written prior to this?
This was the
Well,
first
again,
book.
this
This was the first one. Now, I want you to talk a little bit about your writing experience. What has this taught you about being an author? We'll say it like that. What has this writing experience taught you about being an author?
well, it's taught me that I have a long way to go. This is a learning experience for me also. But again, getting the information out to me was even more important than my writing skills or anything of that matter. Now, it is a process. I have learned that getting this information down, it takes a get into a booklet form. However, yeah, it takes a very long time. And and I think with me being an educator, I always want things to be so perfect, and that I think with me it takes me even longer because I'm just so overly critical that I may even be holding up myself in getting some of this information out because because of what I have learned about my writing skills.
Yeah, and I want to jump in and
Uh-huh.
say, as so, we're tag team, we're partners, and so my mother does the writing, and then I do
Uh-oh.
everything else. And so, recognizing barcodes with formatting the book, the various sizes,
Right.
what works well for the type of, the length and the word size. Do we want images in this book or not? And what does that do to the formatting of the book? And so, definitely a process where we had to slow ourselves down. Initially, we've published about 7 books now, but with this first book here, the lessons was learned that, be patient with ourselves, be patient with the process. And now that, we're pretty fluid, once the writing is done, can feel pretty confident in being able to produce something valuable. It's not just to be able to print the book, but you want to make it look good. You need the format, you need the images on the front cover of the book to attract the readers. And so it's definitely a process within itself.
A very
Yeah.
big.
Now go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, no,
Now,
that.
yeah, and then to be frank and honest with you, and one of the reasons why where we find individuals such as yourself and institutions that y'all are establishing, once the book is done, now you need to market it, and you got to get people to know that it's available, which is a whole nother monster that we are learning. And so this is one of the ways that we, as an independent publishers and writers, to find others in our community willing to offer their platform, that's a big help to us. And so, there's a huge network and process, and you got to worry about distribution next. And so, yeah, it definitely is a big thing.
Yeah, and I always tell people that the real work starts once the book is finished, because you could have the greatest book, you could have the greatest product in the world, but if no one knows about it, then it'll just be there. Same thing with, with the book. You could have the greatest book for someone to read, but if no one knows about it, it'll just be there and not be, not be known to people, and it'll just sit there. But the real work, and that's, to be honest with you, that's what and why, Brother David Murphy, who is the, creator of the National Black Unity News newspaper, when he came to me, and we talked about doing the author showcase, he wanted to give a platform to authors who you might not ordinarily see or hear, but he wanted to make it so that there was this place that authors could go, and they would have the opportunity to talk about their mission, their message, their movement, the motivation behind all of those things, because it's our community and we wanted our voices to be heard. And what better way to have our voices be heard than through this particular media outlet that he had total control over, and was able to do this for everyone. So yes, we thank the authors for writing the books that you all have written, and we also thank Brother David Murphy for creating this media platform, so that we can bring great people like you all onto the platform and be able to give you all the opportunity to be able to just to educate people and to give them knowledge that honestly, they're not going to hear everywhere else. They're not going to see everywhere else. So, and that's what I'm all about. I'm about shining that light on people that you, everyday ordinary people that you might not, or that you might not always hear about. So, if you all can, tell us just a little bit about your book, Revealing America's Dark Skinned Past, Volume 1. Can you give us an overview of what it's about?
Okay, well, volume 1 and also volume 2, which is talking about the Columbus era.
Okay.
And the things that happened when he arrived, which some things, and I really tried to tone that down also so that it wasn't as brutal as what really happened. Because again, I was thinking about school children and what they would be reading. So that one, yeah, I really did kind of had to tone that one down a little bit. Again, it was really about to get people to comprehend from when humans, I guess, modern man, when they arrived in the Americas, the story that is told about when they arrived in Americas, what they may have looked like when they arrived, what history is available out there that lets us know when they have found people that have arrived here out there, because again, science doesn't really want to declare that people were on the East Coast of the United States 50,000 years ago, because that would definitely outrule what we already know, what they have taught us about modern man coming over to the Americas across the Bering Strait. And they said that happened when the ice caps melted. So again, these are things that we talk about in the book. But again, the ice caps melted 15,000 years ago. So how do we have things that are here 20,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago? And again, if these things are over on the East Coast, not over on the West Coast, where if they were coming across the Bering Strait, the things that we tell, that there's statements that probably modern man arrived here not long after they started leaving out of Africa. And so there's remnants of that here. And there is a history that people have been here since man has left from Africa and has been here continually since then. And so these are the things that we try to show in that book. We show pictures of artifacts of people that would look like you and I. That, again, they don't show these images of what the people looked like that were here. We show history and statements where they even say, oh, well, you know what, these people, they look like they came from South Asia, but not. No. What we do is we try to show people, to let them know, hey, look, don't get confused by those words. Southern Asian, the people are Negroid. Northern Asian, they're Mongoloid. But again, they don't put that in the book. You have to know those terminologies. So again, these are just things that we try to expose in the books in a very simple way, very easy wording, so that it can be easy for people to understand. And again, after that, they can continue on and do their own research to build upon hopefully what we put in that book for them.
Wow.
And if I could just, excuse me, if I could jump in there real fast, again, we did say, we're educators, right? And so my mother was really general with her conversation just now, but simple things that will help us, particularly our people, but not just our people, the larger world population, to begin to revisit the historical misnomer of American history, right? And recognizing that the things that mainstream educators, such as the great pyramidal mound complexes and structures that we built here in America, basically pyramids, right? That they are not sharing with us, and that these indigenous peoples that lived on this land, had societies and sciences and cultures that sometimes, some of these artifacts and some of these monuments would cities and some of the pyramids in Egypt. And so when we have, pyramidal mound structures and other structures up until the 1700s, and that the impact that has on we are as a population today. So it's definitely a large concept. But my mother, this particular book is written from a 5th to 8th grade perspective, so that not just you as the reader, but also be able to have this opportunity to share this with your children, so that they could grow up knowing a little bit more of American history.
Yeah, I would say higher, not 5th grade, a little bit higher.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and
yeah. Again, because the 8th grade reading level, and so that's again, so just trying to keep it in that area where it's very easy reading. I just wanted to add, though, that these dirt pyramids, again, the materials that were in the United States that we're able to use was the dirt, and so these were 4-sided. Some of them had 5-sided. They had stairs, and all of this was made out of soil. Some of these things were still surviving today. And what is interesting, and this is funny because I read this yesterday in a book that was talking about the Creek Indians, a very, very famous book. They got these little things, these artifacts out of it. Well, I've been to that supposed stone temple. It was not a stone temple. It was made out of soil. It was made out of dirt. However, and I know that that's the story because of the objects that were a stone structure. You know, so just little things like that. See, this author knew that that was not a stone structure. So why did he put that in his book? You know, so now if we go around looking for stone structures in America, we're not going to find them, but that's what they wrote in the history books. You know, so again, there's just so much of that has to be corrected in the history.
Yeah, and I want to ask you all this, and we get your thoughts on it, because you all just brought up something. I mean, it's just very important about this not being put in our history books, and this isn't something that's being taught, especially at the age group that you're talking about being taught. And I'm sure you all are familiar with the term the critical race theory. And what they're doing with that. Can you all talk about, I guess, explain to people what that is, one, but then if it correlates to what you all are talking about, and this not being incorporated into the history books and how it's being taught and everything like this. I was thinking about that as you all were talking and saying those things, and I wanted to get you all's feedback on that.
Who first, me or you?
Well, you know what, I can begin just a little bit and then I'll let you come on in. But critical race theory is a made up white terminology, almost. Really, it was a terminology that was used in colleges to address things that we're talking about right now.
Okay.
However, the politicians have turned it around to make it appear like it is something that they don't want white people to feel uncomfortable about the history.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that everything about Black history is going to be uncomfortable for them.
Exactly.
But I'll let my son take over from here. Go ahead.
Hey, you know what? That's a fact, you know, and so we need to revisit that. So, you know, well, you know, the larger world population, particularly the American population, needs to ask ourselves, you know, if this is difficult for you to learn about, impact on the development and the systems and the societies, then we really should discuss the inception of race, particularly recognizing that race is a concept that was developed here on the United States soil. And so for me personally, as an individual that pays attention to politics and things of that nature, even with respects to education, I would like the conversation, even amongst those that are willing to have this conversation, not necessarily discuss the colonial aspects of the story, but you know, let's start from the beginning in the development of this concept called race. Ask ourselves what happened, what were the events that led to the decision, and what impact did it have then in our society moving forward. So personally, I feel like it's a concept that needs to be explored, and that the perception, you know, particularly in the colleges and universities and amongst, you know, educators, needs to be refined so that we can actually truly critically analyze race, and not just from an aspect, you know, again, at the time that it was being developed, who was the population being most impacted? And that population wasn't an African population, it was an indigenous population.
Yeah.
And
And you know
so
what? Yeah, I would say that, see, and really the history again of it, people have identified in color, but that was just it. It was just an identifying factor. In the 1500s, when the Europeans were coming over here, for 800 years, the slaves that the Europeans were using were coming from the Baltics. They were not people of color at all. So even using people of color as slaves was something that was new to the world. It hadn't even existed for 100 years. It hadn't even existed for 50 years before Columbus started coming here. And so again, the dark skin slavery was something that was a brand new concept. And so if people don't understand that, and they don't know that in the 1500s that it was just an identifying factor, they had to create laws to make people not have sex with each other. They had to create laws and put money attachments to it and everything to stop people from doing what people do. So again, if people start to learn the history and realize that this thing that was called race is something that was a very new social construct that was being created in the new world. And so you got to know your history so that they can know that, and then we can move forward from there. But until people know their history, things it's just difficult.
Yeah, and I apologize. I just want to jump in and say,
No,
once you
absolutely.
can see when race was started, you can understand why. And once you can understand why the concept was created in the first place, now we can start dealing with the impact that that concept and the idea has had on our people from that moment on. Until you identify the purpose and reason for race being even established, right? It's a concept that was created. Why was it created? Once we can get the why down, now we can say, okay, how do we start to repair? But if you don't know why, then all you're doing is running around trying to mask or band-aid an issue when in actuality is an inception that you need to deal with first.
No, absolutely, absolutely. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. Can you all tell us the message that you want the reader to come away with after they've read the book? What is it that you want them to come away with from reading this?
Okay, well, really,
I'll jump in here. You want me to jump in on this
oh,
one?
go ahead. Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm the talker of the family, right? So Mama's like, look, I just want to do the work. I don't really want to even be on camera yet. So I kind
I
of put,
do the research. I do the research. I tell him, and then he passes
And
it on.
then I love
and
it.
then I
I
I just
love
said
interpret,
it's a tag team.
right? And so, and initially, what we want individuals to get from this book is the reality that we as a public need to educate ourselves about our history. And as you read the book, you'll be able to see that as my mother always shares, history is something that people choose to write about. And so from coming from a colonial perspective, they're going to advocate the history that would benefit their systems. And so what we need to do as a distinct population among the collective larger society is to feel comfortable with revisiting education and from our perspective. And again, as both being as Native Americans, particularly brown skinned Native Americans, when we begin to do when we begin to start to look at history, we're looking at a history that was uh, that made that grounded us. Listen, we want to know the history of the southeastern portions of the United States and what happened to our people when colonizers came. And concentrating all that led us to find that the Americas have been populated for 50,000 years, and that these people that built these societies and civilizations and cities that were bigger sometimes than London at the same time during different time spans, and then recognizing that these people they were not savage individuals, and that their sciences was very high. Again, they built their pyramids with dirt, and that these pyramids that were built with dirt still stand today, and a lot of them are being used as foundation tools for their monuments. It's colonial monuments and colonial museums and stuff like that. And so recognizing that we as a Black population have a connectivity and we can see a connectivity to this cultural group that had created all of these monuments and this historic past, and that we are the only ones that will share that history with the public because it's our story to tell. And so we want the reader to understand the history and the relationship of humans on the continent of America, understand that these people were not savages. They had high degrees of science. As a matter of fact, at one point, they said that they found a kennel that was burning hotter than any kennel that they could find in Egypt. And so to say, to be able to produce a fire that hot, 10,000 years ago is something that they never perceived man to be able to do. And so the relationship of these peoples and what happened to these peoples, recognizing that these people were still building mounds and these pyramidal mounds in the 1700s. Well, wait a minute. If they were still building mounds in the 1700s, 200 years after y'all got here, what happened to these people? Once they stopped building, where did they go? What happened to that science?
Yeah.
And so,
how did they become extinct?
Did they become extinct?
Or,
again, that's a
or
colonial.
Or are they extinct?
And so, revisiting history and recognizing that, the colonial history is limited or misleading at best, and it's really time for us to educate ourselves. They're not going to do a good job of teaching us about who we really are.
Yeah, and that's that's the part right there, and we have to understand that, and that's what makes me thankful for you all, that do this research, that give us that history that we need to, like you all said, that we need to know about and that we need to understand. It's just like our family history, knowing where you come from,
Mhm.
because if you don't know who you come from, you don't know who you are, and you don't know who you can become. So that's part, that's part of that learning.
Yeah, I wanted to say, and particularly as a young man coming from an inner city community, it was really important for once wait a second, some of my blood
Yep.
comes from this land.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we start to be able to go outside of our doors, look at our neighbors, and say, wait a second, this is our responsibility before anyone else's. Once you realize your ancestry was here before anyone else, it's my responsibility to uphold this and to lift this community up. And so as a young man advocate, one of the things that I try to do is once, I get our people's opportunity to showcase, listen, this is who we are. We do have a blood that extends to this land prior to colonization. What are we going to do with this land, and what are we going to do with our neighborhoods? What are we going to do with the trash? What are we going to do about the violence? It's easy to separate yourself when you're being taught that you come from way over there and you ain't never seen over there, and you probably ain't never going to see nowhere over there. Don't nobody remember you from over there. And so you better just take what I give you. Now that we can say, wait a second, we also come from here. And it's our responsibility to take care of here. Let's start to teach the children this is your responsibility because of who you are and what you come from. You come from here.
I also want to add, though, is that, when we say these things, sometimes, well, a lot of times we get a lot of pushback because, again, because we're saying that we are from this continent, that we have ancestry here for thousands, tens of thousands of years. But we are not denying that we have African ancestry. Number one, we know, like I said at the beginning, that humanity came out of Africa. So we know that. And I will say that since, again, we have, there's artifacts, again, 50,000 years ago and have been here since then. And so we have a history here of over 50,000 years of existence here. And again, the Africans did not stop coming over. So there have always been a continual of people coming over. And so we are not denying any African ancestry at all. How can we? I mean, we're people of color. How can we? It's just that we want to give a more thorough understanding for people to really get. It's like, wait a minute. Every dark-skinned person, their ancestry did not start in America after 1492. Their ancestry was here before that. And so now we have two continents now that we can show our ancestry and to show our history and to show the world that
I would say
that this is who we are.
I would say 3 continents because most of us got European in us too. Let's not lie about our history. You know what I mean? And so
okay, well then there's we're the universal beings. How about
right.
that? Universal. Hey, we take it all. We're all of it. And they wanted to say they wanted to say that we were much, right? But hey, no, we're universal. Hey, we got it all.
We're from the earth, right?
Exactly. And that's the beautiful thing about us and about this dark skin that we have, because when you do look at the totality of this earth that we're on, we are from all over this planet, the different aspects of this world. And I don't think a lot of people recognize this, at least from here in this country. And I remember hearing Dr. Frances Cress Welsing talk about this. And she said, this country is comprised of, I forgot the figure she gave for the white population here. It's upwards towards, I think, maybe 70% or something like that. But in the world population, they only make up 1/10 of the population. So 9/10 of this planet is made up of people of color. So you take that and we're all over. We're all over. You have the little aspects that they may come from, but the majority of the people on this planet are people of color. So like you said, we come from all over. Now, the birthing place of everyone is the continent of Mother Africa, and everything else just kind of flows from there. So that's the beautiful thing, and that we have to understand and look. And to me, it's looking beyond this continent that we're on and seeing the world for what it is, and understanding that, and understanding the history of the world, and people, like you all said, the people of color. Let me ask both of you this. What does the title "Revealing America's Dark Skin Past," Volume 1, mean to you? And I'll start with Mother Saunders. What does it mean to you? What does that title mean to you? Look at her, she got a big old smile on her face.
Well, how about I say that that it is a vision of mine. That title is a hope of mine, and that's what it means to me. Is that hopefully that we are revealing this history, that first of all that the people of color can really begin to accept, and then again the world can know the true history about the people of color here in America. So again, to me, it is a vision of hope.
And how about you? How about you, Jack? What does it mean
Well, so that is my mama, right? And I'm all about, we talk about dynasties, and we talk about, generational wealth and things of that nature. But I feel like, before any kind of financial or funds can be considered as a part of generational transfer, it's generational transfer of knowledge, and that's the true wealth. And so my mother's visions is my goal. So my goal is to reveal America's dark skin past. My mother has this vision, and not only the vision, but she has the resources and the capacity to be able to organize and organize this information in valuable formats, whether it be television programs or documentaries or lessons. And right now we're talking about publications and books. And so my job is to do it, to make sure that the public knows of our history here, and to offer our people an opportunity to reestablish those institutions that was lost to colonization.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um,
We can't do that now.
I want to know from you all, because this book is for you all gave the age category for children, and that's our next generation.
Mhm.
How do we shift the next generation's mindset to understand the importance of history like this? How do we get them to begin to want to grasp it, but then also to understand its importance? If I can ask that to you.
I'll jump first because this is actually a teacher's question. So I'll be short this time. No. um, personally for me is knowledge. The children have to know first, and I thought, if you don't mind me just sharing a short story, and I was,
Huh.
when I was in public school, I was I was smart enough to be noticed as a smart individual. I wasn't paying attention to too much or anything else, but I was smart enough for them to say, okay, you know what, let's send you to these science camps, and let's, do these intellectual things with you. And as an adult, I'm remembering a science program that I would go to in high school, where they had us working on synthetic oil, right? And so I'm kind of showing my age right now, because everybody like, what do you mean? It was a big deal back when we was young, right? and and it wasn't worked out as well as it was. So one of the things that they had, it was a program called, it was a institution called Roman Haas. It's a science and chemical firm. And they had us, had all the children come into the room, right? All of us 13, 15, 13 to 18, sit down. And they said, look, we're coming up with synthetic oil. Do the best that you can. We needed to work as good as regular oil. What do you consider? What can you do? Mix any of these chemicals that you want, and try to come up with a thicker product for us that's still as valuable, right? And then they left us alone. And as an adult, I look back at that time and say, they were stealing our ideas.
Mm.
As children with imaginations, we were able to try out or even be interested in trying out things that adults may not necessarily, because we as a young person, you're adventurous,
Right. Right.
and from that story, right? Young people have the ability to think beyond what we do as we get older. And so for me specifically is to put this information in the young children's hand so that they can be aware. Only the Most High knows the capacity of what our children will be able to do just because they know more about themselves now. And so it's not any particular limitation or any particular goal in mind. The point is to get the information into the next generation's hands at the youngest age possible, and then try to support them as they grow, and let's see what they do with this information. It's endless possibilities. Let's not limit that, and let's give them the best opportunity we can.
Absolutely. Now to the indigenous educator. How about you? How about you? How do we get the shift in our next generation?
Well, one thing is for the children to get this information. That means this is going to have to be taught in the colleges to the educators so that the educators can pass this information on to the children. So that is so that right there is something that would really need to be done. Again, that process and how that happens and is the difficult thing to do. Also, to get people to change their minds about what they have been taught. And so now, again, we're talking about the educators now, because again, they have to learn the information so that they can pass it on to the children. So now they have brick walls in their heads because of the years that they have been taught certain information. And so now you have to reteach them. Some of them will accept it, some of them may not. So this is a process. We know that it is a process. We know that is going to take time. However, we don't have time, but we have to be patient and accept the realities of time and do the best that we can.
Oh, gotta have faith. Gotta have faith.
Have to have faith.
No, absolutely.
Especially in these days, especially in these days and times.
Yeah, and that's why what the important thing with that is, like you said, not only to have the faith, but we have to keep, I call it, keep pounding that rock, where we keep putting it out there and keep putting it out there and putting it out there, because the more we put it out there, the more it can't be refuted, the more people get to hear it, the more people, the more the next generation get to know about it. It goes back to me, to thinking about the stories that get told in your family. Those stories have to get told so that they get passed down to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. That's the only way that it gets done.
Yes, and we have to realize that, especially in history, and as far as here in America, and especially for the indigenous people, the indigenous Americans that were here, many of them had to hide their identity. Because remember, in the 1800s, all of the Indians got moved over on the other side of the Mississippi.
Right.
So that meant that anyone that was left behind was no longer an Indian, because all the Indians are gone. And so now that meant that many of them that were left behind, they had to pretend that they weren't. And so for people of color, that was something that was a very easy thing for them to do because they were already getting said that they were Negroes. And so that was something that was very, very easy to do. However, but that was the importance of passing that information down through our ancestry, letting say, look, you know what? They're saying that you're Negroes, but guess what? Y'all got Indian in you. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Don't
Yes, you got
forget that.
Indian in
And
your
look,
blood, boy.
and well, wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you, when I was in Atlanta, when I was teaching in Atlanta, and even when I was in Philadelphia, okay, I used to ask my students, how many of you have Indian? Now I taught in all Black schools. Okay, how many of you have Indian in your ancestry? And in Philadelphia and in Atlanta, in both places, I will say 80% of my classes used to raise their hand. And again, and now, and this is in the 2000s, where this history is still being passed down generation through generation through generation. However, we hear those stories, but then we were taught, no, you're not that. Y'all are Africans, you're from Africa, and so this is what you have to be. You know, and so these are the things that we are that hopefully that we're able to work out. We want to show people, you know, like with the classes that we do have, you know, we want to show people their history and show them where you, when you go into your genealogy, you know, when you go to 1870, you're not going to find anything before 1870 unless you have free ancestors. So if your ancestors weren't free before 1870, you're not going to find them on the census. So if you're not going to find them on the census, how are you going to know the information? How can you know any more history about that? Well, then that's where knowing history comes in. And these are the things that we do in our classes and in the books and everything. We try to give people information so that they can have the foundation that they need for their genealogy and for their history and for their ancestry.
Absolutely. So what's next for you all? Because this is volume 1. So that means if it's a volume 1, then there's got to be a volume 2 somewhere. So what's next for you all coming up as far as the books are concerned?
Okay, yeah, well, we do have a volume 2. Yeah. Which again is about the Columbus era. And like I was saying before,
the Columbian era.
Okay, and as I was, yes, the Columbian era. And as I was saying, this is talking about the years that when Columbus arrived. Before he arrived, is explaining about how really going down into the coast of Africa was something that was very new to them. They hadn't gone down the coast of Africa until like 1836, I think, is when they did their first one in Mauritania. And then they established something in 1442. And I think 1442 is when they got like gold dust and then maybe a slave, but then that's when they found out that slaves made more money than gold. And so then when the Europeans, when they finally got over here to the Americas, they already had the concept, oh, you know what, slavery can make us a whole lot of money. And that's what Columbus did when he got there. He went back and wrote back to the king and said, hey, look, you know what, we could take over the whole island. Okay. And so these are the things that we talk about. And like I said, I really did kind of dumb the book down a little bit because there were so many atrocities that happened on that island that I could have written about. But again, I didn't want to show so many horrors. I did mention a few of them, but again, it was getting the history out so that people know exactly what happened, how they were able to just take over that entire island that is occupied by people of color. and you know, and then guess what? Then the next volume, hopefully, will go on and will continue the story of the arrival here on the mainland continent.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, I want you all, if you all could do, I'll start by having you all talk about, now you all mentioned at the beginning, um, your nonprofit. I want you to talk about that, and I want you to talk about the classes that you all offer as well. And then we'll go into how people can connect with you and how they can contact you to purchase the book as well as get into the online classes as well.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So the online classes is something that Mama wanted to do because we busy, and I'm like, Mom, we busy. She's like, no, I want to do these online. And I'm like, okay, right. I gotta listen to Mama. No, actually, we do enjoy doing them because they're live sessions. And so we have a nonprofit that my mother and I co-founded called Indigenous Education nonprofit. We're based out of Philadelphia, and but for the most part, we do nonprofit stuff. We do community cleanups and beautification programs. We do documentaries. We have a few documentaries that are in a few libraries and a few museums. We have a television series called An American Deception, and we have another television series called Revealing America's Dark Skin Past. And
Revealing America's past. Remember?
Oh, excuse me, Revealing America's Past, right? I forgot that's the TV show. And and then we do these online lessons on Mondays and Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. And what those lessons are an extenuation of the conversation today, where we speak about specific moments in history and or in the past, even some present today. I think my mother's class yesterday was on this concerning propaganda from facts, and that relationship to history. And so we can begin to read through the propaganda of revisionist history and actually, have a grounded and more factual concept of the history of America and the colonization. And so, through the nonprofit, we basically are just interested in servicing and sharing educational information to the public. And it gives us a valuable means to be able to do that, to be able to create the brand. And then also, living in the corporate world, you have to have institutions in order to be able to reach the public in a valuable way, to be able to get into the museums and schools and things like that. Having that institution helps. And so we organized it in order for us to be able to service, which is what we like to do. We like to service, we like to educate the public in hopes that we can build a better moral and ethical generation of people that come behind us.
Now, how can people connect with you, or how can they purchase the book as well?
Yeah, so you can visit our website at indegedu.org, and you can go through the tabs. You'll see a short bio with my mother and I. You can hit the workshop tabs where you have flyers for the workshops that we do. And also we have on-demand web courses which are available that offers people lesson plans and then homework sheets and resources. And so if people want the education but don't have the time to sit in our classes live, they have an opportunity to purchase classes underneath the courses, the workshop tab. And the books also, you can purchase the books directly off our website under the books tab at indegedu.org. But also all of the books are available on Amazon. And actually there are a few other books that we didn't mention that are listed on our website that we published. And so some other information for you too.
Absolutely, I love
And
it.
then we also have InDeGenu shop.
Oh, cool.
where you can support the nonprofit and maybe purchase something.
Yeah, we have we have books, pictures that my mother took during some of her trips to South America, visiting some of the pyramids in
That was still Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, visiting some of the pyramids in Mexico. And then we put our logo on cups and water bottles and T-shirts and hoodies. Again, we're trying to do our best to find ways to, raise funds so that the nonprofit can support itself. we actually don't pay ourselves with the nonprofit right now. So everything we do is on a volunteer basis.
Right.
And just like everybody else that probably comes on this platform, we all know how it goes. You got to grind it until you get it, right?
And that's the part of it that that we do. But it's also about I always say this, making people better, making people better. Um, after the conversation than before the conversation, because a lot of people didn't know this information that they got today. So they're better mentally, educationally. Now that they've heard it, now you all have triggered some, oh man, I think I need to know more. And what better gift to give for Christmas, for Kwanzaa, than to give the gift of education, to give the gift of knowledge, because it's something that can never go away. Like my mom and dad always say, they can't take this away from you. Once you learn it, it can't be taken away from you. Once you know it, it's yours forever until you leave here. So, you know, I hope that people learn something today. I hope that they got something that makes them want to learn more about themselves today, and then to learn something more about us as a people today, because this is vital knowledge that we need to have. Because I honestly and truly believe that the more we know about ourselves, the less we have to have these issues that are happening in our communities. Because if you know yourself, you don't want to destroy yourself or kill yourself. And that's a major issue that we have in our communities. And I think that getting this kind of knowledge, I think, kind of takes that down several notches. So thank you all for the knowledge. Thank you all for the education. Thank you for being obedient to what it is that you all have brought to us, the message that you bring to us, the movement that you all are creating with our knowledge and our history, and being educated. Educating is cool. Being educated is cool. You know what I'm saying? So it's something that I've always learned and was pushed, that you need to know something. You're gonna learn if you do nothing else in this house. You're gonna learn, and you're gonna know. And because the more that we know, and specifically the more that we know about ourselves, the further that we go, the more pride that we have in ourselves, and we understand that, hey, these are things that need to be told. These stories that need to be told, and it curtails some of the misinformation that we've been given. And we've been given a lot of misinformation. A lot of misinformation. So thank you all for educating us, re-educating us, and then even educating us on the things that we didn't know. I appreciate you all taking time out of your busy schedules to come and talk to us and to talk to the audience. And like I told people, they were going to learn something today, and I believe that they learned something today from you all. So if you can give your contact information one more time, and then we'll close out.
All right. I just want to say thank you for offering this opportunity. This is a gift for us, and so the gift for us is the opportunity for individuals to offer us the opportunity to share. And so thank you very much. This is definitely something that we appreciate. My name is Tavis Sanders, also known as Red Tail Hawk Thunderbird. I'd like to introduce my mother, Renee Sanders, also known as Red Silver Fox Thunderbird. We're co-founders of Indigenous Education nonprofit. You can reach us at indedu.org. Leave us a message. We have many resources, some free, and then some publications. And definitely be on the lookout, because we're not going to stop.
We sure aren't.
Absolutely. So we want to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of the Author Showcase, brought to you by the National Black Unity News. And as y'all can see right behind me, you can see their book is right here. Right here, that is their book, but they are also, I have the actual paper here. And this is what you all have received the paper too. I got to make sure that I get you all's mailing information. But this is the current issue of the National Black Unity News and JNF Enterprises. We want to thank y'all for tuning in. We want to thank y'all for supporting the National Black Unity News. You can go to our website at www.tnbun.com. Subscribe to get your newspaper that you can receive, so that you can receive it to your home, right there in your home, or you can actually be able to get the digital download of it as well. So we want to thank y'all for tuning in. And as I say, this is 2021, you all, and it's about leaving the familiar to elevate your influence. And what better way to elevate your influence than to have knowledge, information about yourself, but then also knowledge and information about us as a people that can't be taken away from you. So well, I want to thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see you all next time. We'll talk to you all soon.
Okay, peace.